Hey guys, Amy here with Leap Faith Crafting. So today we are going to be talking about engraving on wood. In my last video we did metal with my Xtool F1. So this time we are going to be doing mostly how to teach you how to find your settings for wood, because the one thing with engraving with wood, and almost actually any material with the F1, is you need to find your specific settings, because there are so many types of wood, and that's why there isn't a whole bunch of settings in Creative Space, because there would be hundreds and hundreds to pick from. And every wood, even if you have the same wood, sometimes a batch is slightly darker, it has darker, grains going through it or knots in it. I got this from the Dollar Tree, which ended up engraving great, but I probably engraved 3 or 4 different ones on different sides to find a setting I really liked. And then I went to do it on another piece and realized, because I bought this one at a later date, that this batch was actually darker wood. So then it didn't end up working as well as the setting I found on this one. So I had to do a couple different ones, and you can see I number mine, and I have like Post-its around of what I do. I also kind of keep a book and write down the things that I do and the settings that I ended up liking. So I just wanted to show you some things that you can actually make with the F1. So you don't have a huge size unless you have the M1 on the plate there, unless you have an extender, which I don't have one yet. So everything I'm making is just within there. So these are just some plain, I think they're 1x6 pieces of just the cheap wood from Lowe's. I don't know if it's pine or white wood, but you can see what happens when you do different types of engraving and then actually scoring around it. So for this one, I changed the SVG that I found, and I'll link it where I got it below, to engraving, and then I actually made an offset and did the offset as a score because I liked how that looked. And then for this one, I just ended up putting like a spar urethane on top of it. There's no stain or anything on it, because you can see what happens when you actually stain the wood. I was hoping to stain it, but when you stain it, it all gets darker, so you can't really see that. But really personal preference on what you like with the stain. So if you want to work with stain, I suggest you staining the wood first, because after I stained it and then I did some engraving, it actually came out better, a little bit lighter. But I think the best, like stain wise, you're going to get with it is a lighter stain, because the engraving is dark. So again, I'm just starting out and I've been testing a whole bunch of things, but there might be other ways people have figured things out. The one that I did like actually a lot is this is a blue stain, a wood stain. These are just wood dog tags that I did, and I really like how that came out. So this was just a plain tag, and that's how that looked. And then I painted it red with chalk paint, and that's kind of cool because you can see that came out. And then painted a white one too. Where's my white one? No, this is the one I painted with a white chalk paint versus just the regular wood. So it adds a little bit to it. And with, the chalk paint is, it's not flammable. So I had luck with doing that. And also the stain, make sure it's like a water-based stain, so you don't get anything flammable in the Xtool, and make sure they dry fully before you try to do that. So something else to play with. I tried the walnut stain, and it's in there, but it's hard to see. So those are just some things about stains. This was a wood coaster right out of the bat, so this is what Xtool sent, and I just did the wood coaster settings within Creative Space, and it worked perfectly. This was actually the test project that they had, first thing I did, and it worked great. I also did some pencils, so I will have another tutorial on pencils and how to do these. But what we really are going to go over today is actually how to do the testing on the wood. So how to make this array. Creative Space, with I think 2 updates ago, finally has this array in Creative Space, so it's super easy to get in there and just change a couple parameters and run. And you can see on the back of some of these that I was running some of these tests. On the back of this piece of wood, I was running tests, and then I was putting stain over them, and then I did it with stain under them. And so I just kind of doing a whole bunch of them and kind of seeing what I liked for my specific piece of wood. Okay, so we're gonna get into Creative Space, and I'm gonna show you how to do this and how to cut that out. And then we're gonna engrave and score this with the F1. So I will have another tutorial on the actual resin boards and how to do this. As you can see, I'm kind of playing with some of that and wanted to make a cool wave ocean on the Dollar Tree cutting board. So we will go through that in one of my next tutorials. Okay, so let's jump into Creative Space. Okay, so first we're going to go through how to do a test array in Xtool Creative Space. So this is the most important thing you need to do when working with new materials, especially wood, because every type of wood is going to be different, so you can't really find one setting that is going to work. I would suggest always doing a test array, and then when you find your perfect settings, buy a bunch of that wood. So this is the most important part of it, so that's why I wanted to show you how to do the test array. So within the Xtool Creative Space here, I am just going to, you can do it a couple ways. You can do it with a shape, or you can do it with a letter. So I'll just show you actually both ways quickly here. I'm just going to go to Insert and click on Rectangle, and then I'm going to drag my cursor just to make a little square. And you can see when that comes up over here, it automatically goes to score. But I'm going to change this to engrave because I want to do an engrave. So with that still selected, I'm going to come up to array right here and click material test array. And what that does is it brings up this screen here that you can change what it's going to test. So what I like to do, because there's tons you can test, so what I like to do is actually go into the Xtool material settings on what they recommend. So if you go to xtool.com, there's a material settings, and we can pick what we're using, which is the F1. And then I'm going to click on wood. And you can see here what they recommend for basswood. So I'm not using basswood, but it's just kind of a nice place to start to get you some ideas. So I always bring in a vector to engrave an SVG file. So that's what I'm going to be working off of. So right here it says vector engrave, 100 power, 300 speed, 1 pass, and then 80 lines per centimeter. That's what they recommend for their basswood. So I'm just going to kind of go off that for my engraving. And we're going to test things around that. So it had said 100 power, so we're going to leave that at 100 for the max, and then for the minimum, I might start at 60. And it's going to do 5 columns, and you can do more because it will test more if you want. And then on the speed, it had said 300. So you can see right here, it automatically goes from 4,000 to 10, which is a huge range. We're not going to be able to tell anything that way. So I'm going to dial it back and maybe go to 400. Since they're recommending 300, and maybe on my minimum, I will start at 100. So 100 to 400, and you can see over on this side, it's going to go, since it's doing 5, it is going every 75. So for me, that's a good place to start. So I'm going to click OK. Okay, so now we have this, but these outside we need to actually change to engrave. So I'm going to change those to engrave. And you'll see that it says multiple values here. Because if I, just to show you, if I go to ungroup and click on an individual square, you can see it says 60 power by speed 400. And if I click on this one, it goes up to 80, which is what corresponds to what it will be. So that all automatically changes. What doesn't change, which is weird, and I don't know if it's with the last update, because it used to work, is that this now is down at power of a 1, which is not going to do anything. So I'm going to change this to 100 and change this to 300. This is what was their recommended, else it's not going to show anything. And then I'm just going to select all of these and do the same thing. And again, select these ones on the bottom and change it to 100, 300. Okay, so now I'm just going to drag my cursor and group this together so it's all there. So the other thing you can play around with, not during the test, but if you want to run a couple different arrays, is the lines per centimeter. And this, I know Xtool recommended 80. I'm usually somewhere between 80 and 120 on wood, but again, it's going to depend on your wood and how many little lines. The higher number, it's going to take longer because it makes that many more lines per centimeter that it's doing. So we're just going to leave ours at 100. Okay, so I'm just going to make this smaller, and then I just wanted to show you real fast that you can do the same thing with Engrave. But say we want to do a letter. So I'm just going to click on text, and I'm just, up here is where you change the text. I'm just going to backspace so we just have an H. And bring this H over and make it smaller. And it's already on score, which is what I want to do an array of is score. So again, if I go over to the Xtool settings, they had said on a vector score of 70% power, 60 speed, and 1 pass. So we are kind of going to go a little bit around that. So again, I'm going to, with this selected, I'm going to click on Array and Material Test Array. And 70, so I'm going to keep my max power at 100, maybe my minimum, I'll do 50. And they were saying max to do a speed of 60, so let's do 100, and then a minimum of maybe 40. Okay, so we have that there. And again, I just want to make sure, I'm going to go to Ungroup and click on this, and it's at power. I have no idea why it's doing that. I'm going to change this to 70 by 60. Actually, I'm going to click on all of these and just hold my shift to grab, to keep clicking on them. And then I'm going to just change this all at one time. 70 by 60. Oops, I didn't get this one. 70. And that's because I've done it so many times that after it's done, I can't see any of the wording because it was too low on power and you couldn't see it. So I'm just changing those back. I'm going to use my cursor to drag over all of it and group this back together. And I'm just going to decrease the size. And we're going to put them next to each other so we can do these both on one piece of wood. Okay, so then we're going to start with our framing. Okay, so now I have everything, and I'm going to put my piece of wood in here. And I'm going to turn that knob up on the side, and so that red light and that blue light are right on top of each other. Okay, and then I'm hit my framing button on my computer, and it will show me in that rectangle exactly where it's going to be. You know, this is just a practice piece of wood, so you can put it anywhere in the middle or on the side if you think you're going to do more than one grid, but I'm just going to leave mine right there and close my machine and hit stop framing and then hit process. So this is everything it is going to do. I'm going to click on start, and then I'm going to push that button. Okay, all done. That took 32 seconds. So I'm going to pull that up. And we can see what looks good here. So I'm thinking I'm probably liking the 100 power by 250 speed on here for the engrave. And then depending on how dark I want it here, I might do 85 by 65 or something in there. Okay, so I hope that helps getting you started on how to figure out what your settings are for when you engrave on wood and then score on in wood. And like I said, you can't exactly do anyone else's because it's going to depend on the type of wood you're using, even the batch that you were using. As I mentioned, I got my perfect engrave on one of these cutting boards. You can see I tried all sorts of different ones. And this board was actually a little darker. It was a different batch than when I got this one. So then when I went to do the one that I found on this one, it didn't work on the new lighter batch one. So if you can get it within the same batch, if you find a wood you like, I'd suggest getting a whole bunch so then you know exactly your settings for each specific type of wood you are using. Okay, so happy crafting. Thanks so much for stopping by, and make sure to hit that subscribe button below so you don't miss any more tutorials.